Hello, Vision. Pastor Jerome here. And I wanted to talk again about what God has been doing and revealing to us through this Renew series as we are walking through the book of Ruth verse by verse. And this past Sunday, we completed chapter 2. We walked through verses 1 through 23. And the big idea was how the gospel gives us a renewed perspective on life. And we looked at 6 areas where the gospel transforms our perspective. If we recall, the end of chapter 1, Naomi and Ruth are entering Bethlehem right in time for the barley feast. And we let that verse kind of lead where we were going with verses 1 through 23 of chapter 2. And we used this big fancy word, and it was the word providence. And providence, to sum it up, basically captures that God is orchestrating all activity in human circumstances. It means that God is intimate, He's aware, He's attentive, and He's available in the human walk, in the human existence. And so while Naomi in chapter 1 literally said, "Do not call me Naomi, call me Mara," which means bitter, God's providence is still unfolding, and we are seeing how God is orchestrating this entire story. At this point, they've entered Bethlehem. They're hungry. They're tired. I'm sure they're thirsty. And Ruth decides to go glean in the fields, and to her surprise, by the end of chapter 2, she comes back with an ephah of barley. That may not mean much to you, but that's several weeks' worth of food. And so 2 aspects of the 6 that I want us to zoom in on is how we see in this story how the gospel renews our perspective on time. What Naomi doesn't know is that while she could be wasting time by being bitter and being upset. Now, make no mistake about it, she has every right to be hurt. She's lost her husband. She's lost her 2 sons. But bitterness is a choice. And so in her bitterness, she is wasting time. But Ruth decides to maximize the time. And behind the scenes, God is redeeming the time. It was no mistake that they came in Bethlehem right in time for the barley feast. It was no mistake that as Ruth goes out to glean, that she meets Boaz. And it is no mistake that she comes back with an ephah of barley. And here's what I want you to see, that God is aware of your current circumstance. God is aware of your current condition. And it might not be favorable. It might not be everything that you thought it was going to be. But do not lose sight of this, that God is still active. He is attentive, He's aware, and He's available. He's attentive to your frustration. He's attentive to what happened. It did not catch Him off guard, even though it shocked and surprised you. He's aware of your hurt. And even though you may not see it now, God is working behind the scenes, and He's available. You can pray to Him, and He's listening. He doesn't necessarily give us the answers we want. He does not meet our greeds, but God does meet our needs. And so God is active. He is available, and God redeems time. Even though she's been in the land of compromise, she's been in the land of disobedience for 10 years, chapter 2 captures one day, and God is restoring Naomi, and God can, will, and will restore you if you put saving faith in Him. The second aspect I just want to unpack in our short time together is that the gospel renews our perspective on God. That's right, the gospel renews our perspective on God. When we encounter hard times and when things happen to us and we just didn't expect it, it catches us off guard. A person out of nowhere just ups and leaves. A financial heartache hits. Things happen to us, and it catches us off guard. And sometimes we can begin to view God differently. We stop thinking that He is for us, and we believe that He's against us. We assume that this difficulty is somehow meaning that God does not love or like us anymore, but that's simply not the case. At the beginning of chapter 1 and at the beginning of chapter 2, we see Naomi frustrated, upset, and bitter. But towards the end of chapter 2, we're beginning to see glimmers of hope. And I hope that you would have that hope today. That you may be in a rough time. Maybe you've lost things. Maybe you've lost people. Maybe in a season of difficulty. But God loves you. And God restores hope. And do not reduce God to that of a man. Because what Naomi didn't understand, and she doesn't see at this point, is that the gospel, God gives us a divine do-over. I want you to say that if you can. God gives us a divine do-over. God has been orchestrating all of this behind the scenes. It's no mistake that they came in when the food is ready. It's no mistake that Ruth is going to meet Boaz. It's no mistake that Boaz is related to Elimelech, who is Naomi's husband, who led her to Moab, the place of compromise. But Boaz decided to stay during the time of famine. And here's what's happening. God is redeeming her time, and God is giving Naomi a divine do-over. You know, there's a phrase we use in Christendom. We say that we are born again. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. If you're born again, watch this, you get to live again. And you're going to find yourself encountering some situations that you had even before you met Christ. But this time you get a divine do-over. Maybe the last time this person walked out on you, you got upset, you cussed and fussed them out, but this time you get a do-over. God redeems time, and you're going to find some cycles in life. You're going to find yourself reliving things that you've done in your past, but this time, maybe the situation isn't different, but if you're saved, you should be different. The gospel transforms you, and you get this divine do-over. And so Naomi, who lost her husband and lost her sons, both of them, and now she's in Bethlehem with this Moabite woman, a social outcast. She's beginning to see that God redeems the time. And if we fast forward to chapter 4, this woman who in chapter 1, Naomi says she's empty, she's going to hold in chapter 4, verse 10, this child of promise, because Ruth and Boaz are going to get married, and they're going to give birth to a son, and his name is going to be Obed. And then Obed is going to give birth to this son named Jesse. And Jesse is eventually going to give birth to this son named David. And long past David, from David's lineage, we're going to get to Jesus. And so Boaz, this kinsman redeemer, points us to the true redeemer, Jesus Christ, who renews our perspective on life. He renews our perspective on time, and he renews our perspective on God himself. So listen, I want you to think about that this week. Walk in the authority and the promises of God, and expect God to be God. I want you to know that I love you. It's an honor to serve you. I'm praying for you. Now walk in the victory provided by Jesus Christ. I love you. God bless you. Peace.